Welcome to Tales from the Switch Vault, where I, jimjimjim, look back at some of the weird and wonderful games from the Nintendo Switch. This time, I paint the world red in Gris. Released on PC and Nintendo Switch in December 2018, it was the debut game from the Spanish indie creators Nomada Studios. Published by the prolific Devolver Digital, it stood out for its outstanding watercolor hand-drawn art style. The game is a 2D platformer where you play as Gris, exploring this strange world while trying to deal with a painful personal experience. Exploration and platforming are the main mechanics of this title, jumping and climbing crumbling structures and beautiful trees. You collect items of light that unlock new routes alongside new abilities to solve puzzles along the way. There is no combat, in fact there are no fail states at all. This was integral to the creators and a difficult one to implement. Accessibility was always in mind, even with the trickier puzzles having multiple solutions. It may seem the game is simplistic, but it's very admirable to ensure that as many people as possible can play this title. The exploration is fun, climbing these huge, weird and broken structures. I'm a big fan of the ground pound ability, showcasing the character's growing strength. How this title stands out in a sea of daily game releases are those visuals, which really suck you in once you start playing. The design work is excellent, it's actually one of my favourite ever art styles used in a video game. It's got that unique watercolour style with huge draw-dropping views of this strange world. The gameplay heavily ties into the visuals, particularly when you start out with this monochrome world devoid of colour. It is up to Gris to solve puzzles and bring colour back to the world through each chapter. Cleverly, the game maximises the 2D visuals by zooming in and out at key moments to show the delicacy of the character or the grandeur and scale of the world that you have to explore. In fact, this also adds to the abstract nature of this world and at times plays into the gravity-bending items and structures. I took so many screenshots when playing this title. There is just vista upon beautiful vista as you travel the world. It shows how the artist Comrade Rosette really got to stretch themselves in design. The watercolour style is just so impressive. I love the broken and shattered statues. It sounds superficial, but you should play this game just for the visuals alone. The soundtrack really aids the storytelling with no real spoken dialogue in the game. Created by Barcelona-based Berlinist, a three-piece music group made up of Marco Albano, Luigi Gervasi and Gemma Gamara. The group makes music for digital apps, art exhibitions and video games, with the Gris OST being their first one. The music is generally quite soothing, almost ethereal, and accompany the player on their journey. It's used so well to accentuate the emotion and toil in the journey, with the choral singing on Gris Part 1 hits really hard as you play. You feel her pain and loss. The in-game sounds are clever too, working really well with the soundtrack. I love how the sandstorm early in the game as the song Perseverance rattles you with its fast high-pitched piano tempo with the wind swirling alongside. In my opinion, the music is as beautiful as the art. The real hook in this game is finding out who this person is and what happened to the world. The sense of discovery and seeing what weird thing will turn up next pushes the player forward. For what seems like a pretty simple game, it's actually full of questions, which for the most part the game delivers upon. How this differs from other titles is the accessibility. Literally anyone can and honestly should play this title at some point. Having the more difficult puzzles have multiple solutions plays into this, alongside the fact that you can't die. I'm all for games that are ridiculously hard, but that also means we need more approachable ones like Gris on the other end of the scale. Where I think the developers went above and beyond is their consultation with a psychologist about the game's depiction of grief and depression. Here, they wanted the 5 stages of grief to be built into the gameplay decisions, such as at the start of the game you're unable to jump. This makes the player notice that something is wrong with the main character. It's so subtle, but has such elegance, as also shown in like the swish of the cape as you land from a high fall, or even the player delicate movements as you run around. It's really well done. Part of the appeal for me was the game's length, coming in about 4 hours long. It's short and sweet, ideal for a Sunday afternoon playthrough. Before replaying it for this video, I believe this was just a one and done kind of a game, but there was so much I forgot about playing it since 2018, it's been well worth the return. It is extremely satisfying to play and finish. For most people that's probably enough. However, there is a hidden ending to find which helps explain the story a bit more, so a good excuse to dive back in. The game comes from Barcelona-based Nomada Studios, which has an interesting origin story. Formed when 2 Ubisoft employees, Roger Mendoza and Adrian Cuevas, fortuitously met artist Conrad Rosette at a leaving party. Rosette was interested in working in video games, whilst the developers wanted to form a studio but lacked the artistic skills. Together they decided to form Nomada Studios and go on not only to make Gris but 2024's follow-up Niva. The game was nominated for a slew of awards across 2018 and 2019. It won an Annie for character animation in the video game, Best Visual Art at the Game Developers Choice Awards, and Games for Impact at the Game Awards amongst many others. It was very well reviewed, often being described as special and magical for the player. It sits at an 83 on Metacritic, which is fantastic for a studio's first game. As of September 2024, the title has gone on to sell over 3 million copies, which is a huge achievement. For me, this game is incredible, so much so I picked up the special edition with the huge coffee table art book and postcards that have gone up on our wall. It's the most beautiful artistic game. Not everything needs to be realistic, and in the modern gaming landscape, you do need a distinct art style to stand out and get noticed. And the Mada Studio absolutely nails it. Looking at reviews, a lack of combat is the biggest complaint made against the game. Maybe a couple more intricate puzzles might have made up for this in my opinion. Considering this game was built around accessibility, they were right to not include it. Fortunately, it was resolved in neither, so just go play that instead. My main criticism would be it's very hard to tell sometimes what's scenery and what's actually platforms. You figure it out through trial and error. I don't actually know how you'd solve it without drastically altering the visuals, which I'd abhor. You get by well enough. I'm really excited by what they can create next. I think neither was a step up in both design and story. Both are still worth playing though. Thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe for more weekly Nintendo Switch video game essays, and comment below on what style game you'd like to see next from them. Now, I must really go find this secret ending.